Next, we are entering the cardiovascular obstacle course in Chapter 14, Part 4. We are going to examine the microscopic blender as we decode platelet disorders, MAHA, and how these microscopic pathologies trigger massive systemic alerts. Let's jump right in. In this lecture, platelets transition from being hunted victims to systemic villains. First, we have the victim profile, which is immune thrombocytopenic purpura or ITP. Here, the bone marrow factory is completely fine, and the RBCs are safe. The platelets are simply hunted and destroyed in what is an immune-focused pathology. On the other side, we have the villain, which is microangiopathic hemolytic anemias or MAHA. This is a vascular alert where platelets form razor-sharp microthrombi, transforming healthy blood vessels into a microscopic blender. Let's start by looking at our victim, ITP. Isolated thrombocytopenia is what defines the pediatric ITP presentation. Here is our patient dossier. A 5-year-old male who is 2 weeks post-viral URI. He presents with a sudden onset of ecchymosis and petechiae. When we look at his lab readouts, his hemoglobin is normal at 13 and his WBC count is normal at 7,500. However, his platelets are critically low at just 12,000 compared to a normal reference range of 1.5 to 4 lakhs. Your clinical insight here is crucial. The red and white cell lines are completely untouched. The pathology is entirely restricted to the platelets. So how exactly are these platelets destroyed? Rogue autoantibodies tag the glycoprotein 2B3A receptor for splenic execution in 3 steps. First, the tag. Rogue IgG autoantibodies, which were triggered by that recent virus, target and bind specifically to the glycoprotein 2B3A receptor on the platelet surface. Note that this receptor normally binds fibrinogen. Second, the journey. These newly IgG-coated platelets circulate seamlessly through the blood until they reach the spleen. And third, the execution. Splenic macrophages recognize that IgG Fc portion as a massive eat me tag and completely phagocytose the platelet. But the body fights back. The bone marrow factory compensates while our treatments target the executioners. In the marrow, you will see hyperactive megakaryocytes. The bone marrow isn't empty. It is in overdrive, furiously pumping out new platelets to replace the ones murdered in the spleen. Here is your treatment cheat code. Our first-line defense includes corticosteroids for broad immune suppression alongside IVIG. Intravenous immunoglobulin essentially distracts the splenic macrophages by saturating their Fc receptors. If the patient is refractory, the definitive solution is a splenectomy, which physically removes the primary site of macrophage execution. Now let's switch gears to the villain, MAHA, which transforms our vessels into a razor wire obstacle course in 3 definitive steps. First, the damage. Severe endothelial damage occurs along the vessel wall. Second, the aggregation. Platelets violently rush to the scene, forming thousands of microscopic blood clots or microthrombi. And third, the web. These clots are then stabilized by thick, streaky strands of fibrin. What was once a perfectly clear vessel is now obstructed by a lethal microscopic web. Schistocytes are the definitive microscopic evidence of a MAHA crisis. If an exam question mentions this finding, you must immediately suspect TTP or HUS. The mechanism is brutal. A perfectly healthy RBC travels at high speed, collides with fibrin and platelet web, and is violently sheared in half. When you look at the peripheral smear, you must look for these fragmented, torn pieces of RBCs, which are classically known as helmet cells. The first MAHA we need to cover is thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura or TTP. TTP presents as a catastrophic multi-system failure characterized by the fat RN pentad. Our clinical vignette is a 35-year-old female presenting to the ER, confused, disoriented, feverish, and covered in petechiae. The classic pentad to remember is fever, anemia, specifically microangiopathic hemolytic, thrombocytopenia, renal failure, and neurological symptoms, which is your absolute key differentiator from HUS. Her lab readout will show massive schistocytes, severely low platelets because they are consumed by the clots, and elevated creatinine indicating renal impairment. Let's open our premium clinical medical dossier to understand the molecular biology of TTP. The core defect is that defective ADAMTS13 scissors allow von Willebrand factor multimers to trap platelets permanently. In a normal state, the endothelium releases massive, ultra-sticky von Willebrand factor multimers. Then ADAMTS13, our molecular scissors, chops them into safe functional pieces. In the pathologic state of TTP, an acquired autoantibody completely neutralizes ADAMTS13. Because they are uncleaved, the von Willebrand factor multimers grow into massive, uncontrolled webs. Platelets get permanently trapped, igniting the microscopic blender. Because of this specific pathology, you must remember this fatal trap. Do not give platelet transfusions. Giving new platelets simply throws fuel on the fire. They will immediately feed those giant von Willebrand factor webs, causing more catastrophic clots and accelerating TTP mortality. Instead, the life-saving cure is plasmapheresis or plasma exchange. This works via two mechanisms. Mechanism 1, it physically removes the ADAMTS13 autoantibodies from the blood, and mechanism 2, it replaces them with fresh plasma containing functioning ADAMTS13 scissors to dismantle the webs. Now the second MAHA is hemolytic uremic syndrome or HUS. Unlike TTP, HUS concentrates its catastrophic damage on the pediatric kidney. Our clinical vignette here is a 6-year-old boy who ate a severely undercooked street vendor hamburger 7 days ago. He developed severe bloody diarrhea and now presents pale with petechiae and oliguria, meaning he has stopped urinating. This forms the classic triad. First, MAHA confirmed by schistocytes. Second, thrombocytopenia from platelets consumed by microthrombi. And third, and most important, acute renal failure presenting as uremia and oliguria. Here's your clinical insight. Unlike TTP, HUS rarely presents with fever or severe neurological symptoms. The microbiology and nephrology crossover here is that enterohemorrhagic E. coli deploys a Shiga-like toxin as a renal assassin. EHEC O157H7 is ingested from contaminated meat. The bacteria produces Shiga-like toxin in the gut, which breaches into the bloodstream. This toxin specifically targets and destroys glomerular endothelial cells, exposing the underlying collagen. Consequently, platelets attempt to patch the glomerular holes, microthrombi form, the kidneys shut down resulting in uremia, and RBCs are sheared attempting to pass, causing the MAHA. Just like TTP had a fatal trap, HUS has a massive one. Do not give antibiotic for EHEC bloody diarrhea in children. Antibiotic administration triggers a catastrophic toxin release. Killing the E. coli causes rapid bacterial lysis, which releases a massive wave of stored Shiga-like toxin directly into the blood, instantly worsening the acute renal failure. So the correct protocol is a strictly supportive care, aggressive IV fluids, and dialysis if the patient is severely uremic. To summarize and secure these points for your exams, diagnostic differentiation hinges on patient profiles and specific mechanistic defects. For ITP, the profile is a child post-viral or an adult female. The defect is an IgG against glycoprotein 2b3a. There are no schistocytes, and the classic sign is isolated low platelets. Treatment relies on steroids, IVIG, or splenectomy. For TTP, the profile is an adult female. The defect is an ADAMTS13 deficiency. Schistocytes are present. The classic signs are the fat RN pentad with a neurofocus, and the treatment is plasmapheresis. For HUS, the profile is a child post-bloody diarrhea. The defect is the E. coli O157H7 toxin. Schistocytes are present. The classic sign is the triad with a renal focus, and the treatment is supportive care and dialysis. And remember this, no antibiotics. System-wide coagulation failure awaits in the clotting catastrophes. You have survived the microscopic blunders, you can identify when platelets fall victim, and you recognize when they form razor wire webs. But what happens when the entire coagulation cascade goes haywire? What if a patient forms massive systemic clots and bleeds out simultaneously? We will answer exactly that in our next sequence, part 5, the clotting catastrophes, where we will decode DIC, hemophilia, and von Willebrand disease.